Welcome to this short mobility session where we're going to be focusing in on shoulders. Now, the exercises we're going through, you can do them all from a chair, which means that you can do them whether you're at home or you're at your place of work, which is great because really the only objects or supplies you're going to need is an actual chair or a desk or a tabletop that you can do one of these exercises on. We have 5 exercises to get through, so let's get started. Beginning in your chair, I want you to scoot to the edge of your seat and I want you to sit up nice and tall. You can, if you have an adjustable chair, raise it up just a little bit so the hips are at least at the same level as your knees, if not a little bit higher. The first movement we're doing is scapular controlled articular rotations, or CARs for short. The way I like to do this is to place my hands on my thighs and then both shoulders at the same time. Think about rolling your shoulders forward, like you're trying to get them to touch in front of you. And you're going to feel it start to stretch out in your upper back. Keep them rolled forward now as you bring them up towards your ears. You'll notice your hands slide forward and back a little bit. That's okay. You're still sitting nice and tall. Nothing else is moving except your shoulders. Once they're maxed out into your ears, keep them shrugged into your ears, but now I want you to try to get your shoulder blades to touch behind you. So still shrugged. Now I'm trying to squeeze them way back to touch them. And then as I keep trying to squeeze back to touch, I push them down towards my back pocket. So your elbows are dropping towards the floor. Your shoulder blades are sinking towards your back pockets. You're going to feel a lot of tension along the collarbone. Keep pushing them down towards your back pockets as you roll them forward again. And then up. Let's try to make it a nice fluid motion, tying all those together. Forward to the ears, pinch them back together, down into the back pockets. Then as they're still in the back pockets, you're going to roll them forward again, up to the ears. Keep them shrugged, pinch them together, keep them pinched together. This is the hardest part for most. Keeping them pinched together as you sink them in to the back pockets. Now, when you go pinching back and sinking them down, the chest is very naturally going to want to arch to try to help you with that. You're keeping all this stiff. Only thing moving is your shoulders. Let's do a few the reverse direction. So, down in the back pockets and pinch together. Keep them pinched together now as you shrug them up towards your ears. Roll forward. Keep them rolled forward now as you push them down towards your back pockets. Pinch them back and together. That's usually that down and back pocket corner is where I feel the most stiffness and challenge with this. Up to the ears. Forward. Good. Now we're moving on to shoulder controlled articular rotations. That was scapular or shoulder blade. Now we're going on to the actual shoulder joint. Sitting in your chair, you're going to straighten your arm, lock out your arm, bring it across your body, however far it will go. And then you're going to keep this arm straight as you sweep it across your body, like you're trying to wipe your nose with your bicep. It's going to come up to where the bicep should be, as close as you can get it to your ear. You're going to take your palm and your elbow pit away from your head as you make the biggest circle you can with your shoulder. You're going to go all the way back. Notice my palm is facing out and my thumb is up. This is where I end. Now I do the exact reverse motion. Lift it up. Begin to unwind the arm to bring the bicep right back up to my ear. I come across, wiping the nose of the bicep again. Back down to the start. Let's do another one. Wiping the nose with the bicep, up to the ear. Now, a big thing here for you is to remember you're not just twisting through your forearm. Think elbow pit, okay, is rotating away from your head as you make this big circle. Another point to remember is your trunk is not going with it. You're keeping your trunk straight forward and stiff. This is 100% shoulder. Finish off by really twisting through the arm, getting that palm out with thumb up, and reverse. Notice how slow I'm going. If you're moving faster than me, then that's a good indication you should slow down. You can go slower than I'm going, but don't go faster. Let's do the other arm. Arm locked, reaching across the body. Come to wipe the nose of the bicep to the ear. Elbow pit goes away from the face. Trunk stays nice and stiff. You might feel some crunchies and crackles in your shoulder if you're anything like me, but that's okay. It's nothing to be alarmed about. Reversing the direction. Again, you're moving just as slow as I am, not any faster. Now, while crunches and crackles aren't anything to be alarmed about, it's just something to be aware of. What I really don't like to do is if you go through this range of motion and you run into a pinching sensation in the shoulder, usually in the top of the shoulder, all you got to do is back out of the range to work around the pinch, because there's no point in training a pinching sensation. We want to train more of what we want to get. We don't want to get more pinching range of motion. We want to get more pinch free range of motion. So if you ever feel a pinch, back out of the range of motion to where you don't feel it, but continue doing everything else as normal. Bicep back up to the ear, brushes across the nose. Good. Finishing that circle. Next is capsular CARs for the shoulder. It's the same idea of what we were just doing, but we're going to isolate it to make the upper arm bone simply twist in the socket. I like to do both arms at the same time, but to get us started, you're going to extend one arm out straight out to the side. Keep the arm straight, and you're going to be paying attention to what your elbow pit is doing. Right now, I'm going to sit up nice and tall. My chest isn't going to arch, and I'm not going to round. I'm not going to do anything funny with my trunk. It's all shoulder. I'm going to look right there at my armpit, and I'm going to try to get my armpit to face behind me. It's not actually going to be able to face behind me, but I'm going to use my shoulder joint to try to make it do that. And I feel it wind tight in there. And now let's try to do the opposite. Try to get the elbow pit to face the floor. Now I get stopped right about here. I could make it go further by rolling my whole trunk on this side forward, but I don't want to do that. It's all shoulder. So right about here, I feel it wind tight in the shoulder and down the bicep a bit. That's it. And then elbow pit, trying to rotate behind me. I hold it for just a couple seconds to see if I can get a good muscle contraction. And then elbow pit to the floor. Good, let's try the other side. Arm straight out, pay attention to your elbow pit. Elbow pit trying to rotate up and back behind. Feel the muscles squeeze tight in the shoulder. You probably feel tension build up. And then the opposite. Get that elbow pit to point to the floor. I have a little bit more range this direction on this side. Trying to go a little further. You can twist through your forearm, that's fine. Just note that your elbow pit is your point of reference. And then back up to the sky. Trying to get a little further this time. Now I know what it feels like. I want to feel that contraction sensation, and then I want to make that contraction sensation a little bit more intense. Flex a little harder. And then to the floor again. Let's try both arms at the same time for just a rep or two. So both arms out to the side. We're going to do both arms going the same direction at the same time. So here, both elbow pits trying to rotate up and back. I can look down in front of me, make sure I'm not arching through my chest. I'm staying nice and stiff through my trunk. Good. And now I'm going to try to go the opposite way. Looking straight down, I can kind of see both arms out of my peripheral. I'm not rolling forward at my shoulders. Elbow pit, trying to rotate down and back. One more up. Really squeeze into that range. It's not going to feel necessarily comfortable. You're probably going to be getting tired. But mobility training isn't simply stretching. It is hard work to earn these ranges. rotating down and in as far as I can, and relax. Next exercise is shoulder internal rotation pales and rails contractions. So you have two options here. The first is to sit on the floor and then use your chair as your surface, or you can remain seated in your chair and then use a tabletop or your work desk right next to you to prop your arm up, just like you see that I have here. So what does this look like? I want my arm about, I want my elbow about even with my shoulder. So arm is relatively parallel to the floor. 90-degree bend in the elbow. And then you're going to simply just let the weight of your arm rest. And you'll notice it just naturally gets stopped by the tissues of your shoulder. As you let this arm go down and in, we're not letting the shoulder shrug. Everything stays nice and parallel to the floor. Now, the sensation of stretch should be deep in the back of the shoulder. And we emphasize that by simply taking the opposite hand and pushing down on the arm, and you're going to feel that stretch deep in the back of the shoulder become more pronounced. In this position, we're actually going to hold it for 2 minutes. Now, the whole point of holding a stretch for 2 minutes is because when we're stretching, we're not really stretching muscle. Muscle is the stuff that flexes and makes us move, but muscle's held together by something called connective tissue. We call it myofascia. And myofascia is made of the same stuff that makes your tendons and your ligaments and your cartilage, and honestly, even your bone. Connective tissue goes throughout every part of your body, and it's a primary component that makes up your joints. So by doing this, we are stretching the connective tissue of the shoulder joint capsule, specifically by working into internal rotation, which the vast majority of people are lacking at their shoulders, and a lack of internal rotation is tied to many chronic conditions of the shoulder. And that's you can go out there and look up the research evidence on that, and it's called GERD, glenohumeral internal rotation deficiency. Big long word, that's why we call it GERD, but it's tied to many chronic conditions of the shoulder. So we want to be proactive in preventing those things. So we stretch into internal rotation. We are coming up on 2 minutes here in about another 20 seconds. Once we're done with our duration of stretch, we're going to go right into a Pales contraction, which is a contraction of the muscles that are trying to take us out of the stretch, but we're going to stop that from happening with our opposite hand. So you're contracting into yourself. And we always start off really light. So starting now, you're going to take this arm and you're going to try to rotate it up and out of the stretch, but this top hand is not going to let it. And you're going to start off really light on a scale of 1 to 10 at a 1. Now bring it up to a 2, then a 3, a 4, a 5. I'm already getting shaky here. A 6, 7, 8. If you're not shaky now, you should be. A 9. And now you're trying to contract as hard as you feel that you can. It doesn't matter how hard or how powerful that contraction is. It's just the fact that you are trying to contract. If you don't feel like you can produce the contraction at all, back out of your range just enough until you feel that you can. Keep holding. Keep trying to rotate out for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gradually relax. And as you relax, you'll notice that you could probably rotate a little further into that range. The rails is contracting the opposite stuff. So I have my hand here as my marker. I'm going to see if I can use the muscles of the shoulders to actively rotate a little further into the range. Again, the shoulder stays down, doesn't roll up into my ear. Good. You'll know you're doing a rails contraction when you try to pull it out of the range, but you're meeting resistance because you're trying to actively contract into it. Good. And relax. Let's do the other shoulder. Okay. Get your setup, whether you're using your desk or your chair. Arm parallel to the floor, let that upper arm rest, and then give it some overpressure to feel that tension really pronounce in the deep backside of this rotating shoulder. 2-minute hold. Here we go. Now with this one, if you are in this stretch, this position of stretch, you should feel tension or pulling, and it's going to feel really deep and very pinpoint in the backside of your shoulder. You may feel a little bit of a bunching up in the front side of your shoulder. If that is the case, you can change your angle a little bit. That is, make your trunk rotate further this way. You can also change the elevation of your elbow, because the primary sensation you should be feeling is stretching deep in the underside, backside of the shoulder joint. We're going to continue to hold. We're a minute in. We have 1 more minute left. The importance of stretching for at least 2 minutes is connective tissue requires long duration, uninterrupted tension in order to have time to respond to a stretch. 30-second stretches will not produce any kind of change in connective tissue. At least 2 minutes of uninterrupted, sustained tension. So that's what we're doing with our 2-minute stretches. And then we're immediately following that up with these pales and rails contractions, which actually feeds even more tension into that same tissue in the same direction. So we are giving the connective tissue of your shoulder capsule lots of stimulus that leads to the capsule becoming more compliant and more flexible, allowing more joint space and range of motion. We are going to begin our Pales contractions. So, not backing out of the stretch unless you feel like you can't produce a contraction, then you back out just enough to where you feel like you can. Remember, this arm's now trying to rotate out of the stretch, blocking it with your top hand, starting off light at a 1, bring it up to a 2, up to a 3, up to a 4, a 5, a 6, now I'm getting shaky, 7, 8, now you should definitely be shaky, a 9, now you're rotating out as hard as you feel you can, and you're going to maintain this contraction effort. I had to back out of the range just a little bit on this side because I wasn't able to produce much at all. I backed maybe just a couple of degrees out so I could get a good contraction sensation. Keep holding it for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gradually relax. Then we go into our rails contraction, trying to actively rotate the shoulder further into this range. Again, this shoulder doesn't shrug up to your ear, it stays down. The muscles are trying to contract down and in now. And relax. Last exercise. Having a seat back in your chair, sitting on the edge of your chair, you are going to give yourself a little bit of a forward lean here. So if you need to lift your chair up to get your hips away from your knees a little bit, that's perfectly fine. Think about keeping a flat back here. I don't want you rounding forward for this. I want you to hinge forward and keep your back nice and flat and your trunk stiff. Both arms are actually going to come into your lower back. You can take one hand on top of the other if you'd like. Pull your elbows and shoulders back if you can, and do your best here. If you have to be way down here, that's fine. If you can get here, if you can go higher, that's great. We're going to do 3 of these. You're going to start off by simply lifting the arms off your back, extending both elbows. Now think back to those shoulder cars we did earlier. Think, unwind the shoulders, bring them all the way up over your head, bring the biceps to the ears, pause. Now let's reverse it. Twist those arms, elbow pits trying to twist backwards. Bring those arms back to where we just were. Bend the elbows, hands back in the lower back. Lift, extend, unwind and sweep, biceps to the ears, hold, reverse, wind those shoulders up, all the way back, bend at the elbows, down, last one, lift. Your shoulders should be nice and tired now. Unwind, biceps to the ears, reverse, wind those shoulders up, staying stiff through the trunk, bend at the elbows, bring them right back into the lower back. All right. Solid shoulder mobility routine you can do from anywhere, including your workspace.